Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
Hello, welcome to the Alldus podcast. As part of our AI in Action series, I'm delighted to welcome Sunil Sharma, COO of Blacksquare, and John Carpenter, CTO of Blacksquare. Sunil and John, very great to have you on the show today.
Very glad to be here.
Thank you.
Sunil, I'm going to start with yourself. Could you give me a little bit of an overview about you and your background? And then, after that, if I can lead to John and a little bit of an overview about John's background, and then we can jump into Blacksquare.
So I'm Sunil Sharma. I'm the COO at Blacksquare, as Mark mentioned. My background, I have over 18 years of experience in areas of finance, project management, technology implementation, based out of Calgary, Canada. I hold a MBA in strategy from Queen's University or Smith School of Business here in Canada. I joined Blacksquare in 2019, and I'm responsible for overseeing Blacksquare's operations globally and driving scalable business growth.
Sure, and I'm John Carpenter, the CTO of Blacksquare. I've got around the same 18 to 20 years experience working on a number of different startups, primarily in the tech, anywhere from geomatics engineering to AI and machine learning. I snuck in a viticulture and oenology degree, and that leads us to a lot of the alcohol and data and technology space at the same time. I was one of the first sort of candidates on Google's AI machine learning self-driving car program, and look forward to carrying some of that technology into different sort of industries.
Sunil, if I start with you, can you give us a little bit of an overview about Blacksquare? And if people don't necessarily understand much about the industry or what's happening in it, it'd be great to tell us a little bit about that too.
For sure. So Blacksquare is the global leader in end-to-end digital e-commerce solutions for the international alcohol brands. We provide technology and infrastructure required to sell products online, essentially. We have over a decade of experience building our own brands and helping clients accelerate their digital strategies for their sustainable futures. And we're really bridging the gap between brands and consumers. That's really what we focus on through direct interactions with our proprietary data platform. And we're what I would say a relentlessly resourceful group of people. Everyone in the company has the freedom to work independently, to solve problems, to get things done for our clients. And it's a real entrepreneurial attitude. And while we move from startup to scale up, it's definitely underpins everything that we do. And that's a big part of our culture. We have our own independent alcohol brands in Canada. So over that decade of experience, we have our own independent alcohol brands in Canada. We also service global enterprise and accelerate their direct-to-consumer digital strategies. And that's everywhere from wineries out in Australia to large enterprise clients like Diageo and Vivino.
So Sunil, tell us about the problem that you're help solving and why is that problem worth solving?
We have a decade of experience, as I mentioned, building our own brands and helping clients accelerate their digital strategy for a sustainable future. And as I said, we're bridging that gap between consumers and brands. And we use our consumer analytics data platform Insight to do that. COVID has shown traditional producers that they really need to pivot a portion or significant portions of their channel strategies to direct to consumer and offer a more personalized digital and offline experience to consumers as buying behaviors shift. Blacksquare, because of our experience over the last decade, are experts in this and in managing that whole end-to-end journey for consumers. And so Blacksquare is enabling that for our enterprise clients with our expertise that our clients haven't staffed up for and don't have those expertise in-house. And so they rely on us to partner with them to help drive their digital strategies.
John, if over to you, tell us a little bit about how your approach differ from other companies' approach in the market.
When we talk about alcohol in the industry, we tend to take an approach of let's figure it out and we'll learn along the way and then it comes to it. So what we end up doing is being really data driven when it comes to making our decisions for the product. So when you think about alcohol, it's got a long history, much longer than e-commerce in the hundreds of years. And people have an entrenched sort of view of how they approach alcohol. You have a drink with dinner, or you go to the pub with some mates. And that sort of experience, we wanted started to carry that through. And so we'd made a lot of mistakes along the way. And so when we talk about this, and Sunil brought up this decade worth of experience, it's a decade's worth of mistakes that we've made along the way. So our approach, let's use the data to drive and find out what consumers are actually doing. Let's find out how they're buying the products, how they're engaging with them, what makes an exciting experience for them, to be able to bring that sort of alcohol experience into a different sort of realm for it. We don't want to replace their existing relationships with it, but what we want to use is e-commerce as a leverage point for it. So that data-driven approach underpins everything we do across all our sites. We start with, let's figure it out, let's get the data, let's understand what the consumers are doing, and then let's give them a product that's going to mesh up with what their needs are.
So if I'm not mistaken, you're working with around 65 plus e-commerce sites. I'm guessing you're going to start to notice different types of buyer behavior. And if you jump into that, tell us a little bit about some of the insights that you could share.
Sure, I can share a bunch of them. We do run around 65 globally, everywhere from wineries in South Africa and Portugal to a big distribution in Australia. So we do carry a number of different brands for it. One of the insights that we track onto it is the specific consumers that are buying on e-commerce might not be the exact ones you expect. So we do have an internal brand called Canada Craft Club where we distribute beers on a monthly basis for it. And these are craft beers. These are low curated, built, and managed. And we send out those packages as that sort of experience. When we first launched that project, we thought, you know what, we're going to hit the craft buyers. These are fixies, bearded men. We'll target them specifically, dark colors, and we'll push out to those products. But what we found in the end is that the typical buyer to a craft beer club would be the partners. So we would talking, typically females would be coming to our site looking for, what does my partner want in this product for it? So we refocused the site on that one, away from the craft beer buyers into the craft beer gifters. So the people would be buying gifts for somebody else. And we saw a big up in pickup on that one. And so we're able to deliver the beer products that are wanted to the consumers, but we're doing it in such a way that we're focusing on the people who are buying the product instead. And that's the big difference that we see between the two of them.
John, I'm guessing it's not as straightforward as how you've just expressed it. Tell me about some of the engineering problems and challenges that you need to overcome.
Yeah, and that was learned over a number of years. You can go through, when you get to the end, you can say, look, looking back, well, it was obvious, we would have figured it out anyways, but it's not always obvious. E-commerce data does flood you with a significant amount of data, and it's usually disparate, disconnected. It may not relate to it. Somebody who may buy for themselves and buy a gift at the same time have two distinct buying patterns for it. So the data really comes in weird sort of chunks. We don't have a long background or history in the data. So being able to manage and understand the data as a disparate, chunked up sort of data sets that aren't connected becomes really difficult. It becomes really difficult to use the standard sort of traditional models, statistical models for it. And this is where the machine learning really takes over. It could fill in those gaps in terms of the data sets for them, and we could start to build on those data sets. Additionally, e-commerce is driven highly by privacy laws. So we're really restricted on the data that we can collect. It'd be nice to collect everything, but we're really restricted on what we can collect. And additionally, that doesn't provide a lot of value. We tend to stick towards the data that does provide a lot of value for us.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Sunil, if for people listening in, and the novices listening in and don't know much about this, can you provide some examples that user generates from this approach?
I mentioned before, at Blacksquare, we're offering unique and unparalleled online and offline experiences for consumers and for our clients, for that matter. And by focusing on quality of our solutions, from acquisition of that customer through our world-class user experience on our sites and an unmatched last-mile delivery experience, as well as through personalization, we're able to offer this kind of experience. And you think of the online search and recommendations. If you're going to a site and you're recommended to buy something that is of your interest because we're collecting valuable data to be able to offer you a more personalized experience, that's definitely going to enhance your experience online. But when you look at the offline, what are people looking for, especially during gifting periods? In whiskey, that may be Father's Day. In wine, that may be Mother's Day. And you obviously have the retail period during the October, November, December period. And we offer offline experiences like engraving and tissue paper in your box, gift card messaging. We're really offering a white glove service for high value bottles where we offer dedicated delivery. There's bottles can range everywhere from 50 pounds all the way up to 30,000 pounds, 50,000 pounds. And we have a diverse consumer and we can offer that personalized experience both online and the physical experience. And this is what consumers are looking for. And COVID has definitely accelerated the D2C channel and specifically in the alcohol sector, which is only second to grocery based on first party data and research. And we have seen with our own first party data that consumer behaviors have fundamentally shifted. We're seeing an increase as well in consumer retention as a result of offering these positive consumer experience. Gartner said it best when there's been a decade worth of acceleration, almost 11% e-commerce penetration over the last year. And of course, at our core, we're leveraging digital and Blacksquare's proprietary data platform Insight to better understand the consumers. And I think that's the key, is we use the data in a positive way to offer this personalized experience for the end consumer.
And so that makes an awful lot of sense because customers will continue to shop and experience that and be high retention if they're getting that great experience. And it makes sense because it just becomes easier to continue to do that. John, tell us a little bit about some of the data science projects that are happening at Blacksquare.
Yeah, I think tying into the last point, when we talk about the personalizing to individual customers, we're doing a lot of work on that regard. So if you tend to get a marketing email that says, here's a great 5,000 pound scotch that you may enjoy, and that you're not in the market for that one, it's actually a detractor. So being able to properly segment and market to the specific users the products that they need is more than, hey, this is just a nice benefit to have. If you're sending them the wrong message, then they'll say, maybe this product isn't for me. Maybe this company isn't for me. So that segmentation becomes a very important part of ensuring that we're delivering the right personalized product to the customer. But done incorrectly and doing that customer segmentation incorrectly and making assumptions about the user is what causes a lot of the problems. So some of our data science works is centered around automatically starting to classify people. You can move people in between different sort of customer segmentations and saying, look, we saw that you're looking at this product. What about looking at this one to it? And that gets us to the point of the recommendation engine. So tied in with this sort of segmentation for the user. So understanding their buying patterns and putting forward products to them that we think they would really enjoy, we can now push those recommendations for it. Now, both of those ones in terms of automated customer segmentation and recommendation engines are well managed by machine learning. And machine learning is much better at being able to identify those ones and adapt to them very quickly. So where in the past, marketers would say, we have one segment that is this sort of demographic and we're going to send them this message, that was a very backwards way of doing things. And it worked for a small portion of them, but it wasn't able to adapt to the changing user behaviors that we see on a regular basis. And understanding those recommendations really gives us a lot of value.
John, within data science, it's very easy to work on wouldn't it be cool projects, and suddenly you're 3 to 6 months down the line and you come back up for air and the impact isn't there. How do you stay honest and make sure you're working on the most impactful project?
We tend to work backwards for it. We decide on the outcome metrics that we want to achieve for it. And being able to rapidly roll up some changes and make some changes very quickly is part of the architecture and DNA of the company. We want to make sure the Insight platform, and the reason why it's proprietary, is designed for quick A/B testing for it. So we can push these recommendations out to the user and we can see the response back for it as well. Our expectation is these simple sort of data science projects, we call them simple data science projects, but they're inevitably much more complicated for it, should be into production within 1 to 2 months of starting the project. That'll avoid us from keeping these long-running projects for it. But most importantly, we want to be able to learn from our own data models for it, being able to adapt and understand them. And so if we start with the outcomes, so we start, even our machine learning projects have got specific outcomes that they have to hit. We start measuring on those points, then we're more likely to be able to execute on these projects and get them done on time.
So now my final question to yourself. I read the recent Rabobank D2C market documentation that you sent across, and I found it really interesting. Could you tell us a little bit about that to the listeners who probably haven't seen it or read about it?
So Rabobank, just for those who don't know in the audience, there is a Dutch multinational banking and financial services company that also has a research arm and regularly provides into the food and agricultural business. The article you're referencing there, Mark, a recent article from January 2021 titled, Are you doing direct to consumer all wrong? And what Rabobank speaks about in that is how beverage companies are really needing to rethink how they approach their D2C channels. The traditional approach of large wholesale retail distribution, sending out palletized product will not work for D2C, which is more bespoke and personalized service, as we've talked about. And it's completely a different business model. And the channel really requires a different upfront investment, different talent of resources and technology, as we've talked about today. The larger organizations that believe they can pivot their sales channel to D2C immediately and realize significant sales growth definitely need to rethink their strategy. These organizations rather should be using the D2C channel to build stronger consumer base online, use it to test new ideas and gather valuable insight John has talked about. This in turn is really going to help them better segment their marketing programs and, more importantly, optimize their huge marketing spends. These companies spend huge amounts of money to build out their brands and do all their marketing, and they really have an opportunity to optimize it now with some of this technology. And this is where Blacksquare really supports organizations. You could either build this in-house or try to build this in-house, but that will take you a very long time. Or you can leverage Blacksquare's decade of experience and you can accelerate that journey. And we handle that whole, not only end-to-end journey for our clients' consumers, but also for our clients. And for those who are interested in learning more about that, you can go to blacksquare.io.
Sunil, thank you very much for that. And John, also thank you very much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time, both of your time.
Thanks very much for having us, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.